Mr. Mo Kelly here, KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Have you been watching the calendar? Don't you know it's beginning to look a lot like, well, not Christmas, but a presidential election? We're 3 weeks away to the day. 3 weeks. It seems like this presidential election season will never end. Yeah, I know we're going to probably have a change in the House. Yeah, we'll probably have a change in the Senate. There'll be all sorts of movement, but we're only tuning in really for the presidential election. Now, nerds like me, we want to know all that stuff. We want to discuss about, regardless of who becomes president, will he or she have power to get anything done? And that is determined largely with the makeup of the House and Senate. You know, will the new president be able to get any of their confirmations through the Senate? Will they have control? All that kind of stuff I love as a political nerd. Most people don't care. They only care who's going to be in the Oval Office. They'll worry about the other details down the road. But think about this. In 3 weeks, all hell's going to break loose. And I don't say that with any type of flippancy. I don't say that with any type of glee. All hell's going to break loose because our country is going through some things. It's almost like they're going through puberty times 10. And hopefully we'll grow up at the end of it all. Hopefully, but there are no guarantees. And I do Spectrum News at least once a week, and I'm asked the same question almost every single time. Mo, what do you think is going to happen? Or what is going to happen? And my answer is usually the same, because there's nothing worse than alleging to know something you actually don't know or couldn't possibly know. When you do, it signifies to the people who actually do this stuff for a living that you don't know what the hell you're talking about. If you think that you know what is going to happen in 3 weeks and beyond, because we're not going to know who's president 3 weeks from today, it's literally impossible, because the mail-in balloting, the counting of those ballots will continue on for the next few days, if not weeks. But if anyone says they know what's going to happen, they are lying. And I'm not ever going to lie to you. Now, you may disagree with me. You may doubt my math, but you should never doubt my sincerity. You should never think that I'm trying to lead you astray. I said some time ago, the reason why we can't prognosticate, we don't know what is going to happen, is because there are too many variables. I said months ago, and I know Stephen heard it, I know Mark heard it, and I know Tuala heard it, and I know you heard it if you were listening. I said there's no way to know because we don't know what's going to happen in the world. I said before, we don't know if the events in the Middle East are going to expand, if that war is going to get worse or involve more countries. It has. We don't know if there's going to be a health issue with one or both of the candidates. And if you've been watching the news lately, well, there's some serious questions surrounding Donald Trump. I said I didn't know whether both of these candidates were going to make it to the finish line. Most likely Donald Trump will make it to the finish line. But there are more questions now than 2 weeks ago, if you saw what happened in that town hall last night. I said that we don't know what's going to happen economically. We don't know if the stock market, if there's going to be a major crash. We don't necessarily know if there was going to be any type of act of terrorism. Remember earlier, we didn't know that there was going to be not one, but 2 assassination attempts. No, that third one does not count. Don't even try it. But my point is, we don't know. There's even more things that we don't know. For all the Republicans saying that they're never Trumpers and they're campaigning and they're also endorsing Kamala Harris, do we really know whether they're actually going to pull the lever for Kamala Harris? Do we know that all the people who say they're MAGA are actually going to pull the lever for Donald Trump? Are they going to show up? And the reason I say that is because we had 155 million people who actually turned out and voted for the office of president in 2020. We'll probably have even more this time around. And anyone, absolutely anyone, me included, I don't care what Mark Ronner has to say. Good evening, Mark. I don't care what he has to say. If anyone should try to tell you that they know what 150 million people are going to do and how that is going to be spread across some 50 states and territories, and how mathematically that's going to end up in the Electoral College, if they tell you that, run in the other direction because they are full of ish. There's no way for them to know. There's no way for anyone to know. Put it this way. You have both sides in this election, this presidential race, spending close to billions of dollars trying to influence you, influence me, bring different people under their tent, encourage people to come out and vote. There's no way of knowing whether all those efforts are going to, in the end, impact the decision. We don't know. It's going to influence, but we don't know if it's going to impact. Remember, Georgia was only decided by a few thousand votes. Arizona was only decided by a few thousand votes. There's no way to know how that's going to shake out this time around. They're called battleground states for a reason. And I know you may wake up on a certain day and say, oh my goodness, it's Trump all the way. There's no way he can lose. And then you remember 2020, he lost. I don't care what you want to tell yourself. He lost in 2020. Or you could say, there's no way in the world that Hillary Clinton is going to lose to a game show host who has never held any public office, who has no idea how to run this country or even a company. You look up, he won. That's because nobody knows what is going to happen. They're spending all sorts of money to try to make sure they have the largest say in what happens, but nobody knows. And in the last 3 weeks, we've seen more uncertainty in, I'll say, world issues. We've seen more uncertainty with one of the candidates. Can't talk about Joe Biden. He already dropped out. Than I think anyone could have foreseen. Hopefully, we as a country will be able to make it through this period safely. Hopefully. But we collectively have to want that. We have to be willing to accept the results of this election. Because if you believe that the only way the other side can win is if they have cheated and you have no evidence to support it, then we've lost our way. And we're lost as a nation, and there will be a price to pay for that. Remember after the first assassination attempt, how everyone was supposed to tone down the rhetoric? Has that happened? Absolutely not. Not even close. And then we're going to act surprised when something really bad happens in the future, if not election night or sometime after that. And I'm not hoping for it, but I think that we are deluding ourselves if we think that we can keep on this trajectory and not fall victim to it. It's Later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. And I got some good news when we come back. You know how we talked about how these vending machines on these campuses maybe need not sell all these candies with that yellow dye and red dye. Maybe they should sell something healthy. Well, we'll tell you about a vending machine that is holding books, not candy. I don't know if it's going to work. We'll discuss it next.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Ooh, Later with Mo Kelly on KFI AM 640.
We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. You know how they say it's the thought that counts, or their heart was in the right place, or they were well-intentioned? It usually means it's a bad idea, even though it came from a good place. That's what I think about this. When I see that there's a new alternative to selling candy in vending machines, and I think we can agree we don't need more vending machines with candy or cookies, cakes for young people. We just don't. We probably need something healthier. Well, this is a different type of healthy. Here is what the city of Alhambra posted on its Facebook page yesterday. Quote, "We're thrilled to announce the launch of two innovative resources at Emery Park, the Locker of Things and the Vending Library." Yes, you heard that correctly. The Vending Library provides more than 200 Alhambra library books ready for checkout and return. And they're also offering secure lockers where it's, according to them, makes it easy for pickup or your holds 24/7. So you can get a book or return a book 24/7. And the vending machine can be found outside the Eugene Coletta Memorial Emery Park Youth Center, which is in Emery Park, obviously 2709 Mimosa Street. Placed next to it is the Locker of Things, which holds family-friendly games like Uno, Candyland. I don't know if kids actually play Candyland anymore, but they can check out these games anytime, whether at the park or in the comfort of your own home. That's how it's being built. And let me just back up, because I'm going to use all those phrases. Their heart was in the right place. I'm quite sure they were well-intentioned. They meant well. But this just seems like a silly idea. And I don't want to just rain on positive ideas. I'm more raining on the execution of this. It would be nice if we lived in a world in which kids sought out board games. I played Candyland. I played games like Sorry, Monopoly. And if you're listening, you probably did as well if you're of a certain age. But kids today, they're not looking for a vending machine to play a board game. And then you have to think about the reality of renting it out and returning it in one piece. You know how it happened with the libraries back in the day? Most of the time, we didn't return the books. We didn't obviously return the games with all the pieces. It just didn't turn out well. And I think this is well-intentioned. And yes, we need healthier things to offer young people. But I don't know if this is going to spawn a new trend, a new fad of offering board games and also books that people are going to check out of a vending machine. Now, not to contradict myself, I am all for the expansion of library resources. When I was out of work many moons ago, the public library was a great place to go. Not only did you have access to internet, you had access to all sorts of resources for people young and old. So I'm all for using these types of resources and expanding them and making them available so people can use them. I just don't know if this is going to be the right way. I don't think there's going to be any real return on this where people are going to actually check out the games and take care of the games and return them whole in a way that I think is going to bring about greater use of them. Now, Mark, are you there? I got to ask you this.
I'm here.
When you were growing up, what board games did you play?
Oh, we had Monopoly. That was a good way to break someone's will. And just humiliate someone.
Those games usually got nasty.
Yeah.
Yes. We played Chutes and Ladders, Candyland, obviously Life, Risk. Those were good games.
I have the vaguest memories of those. I don't even remember how to play them. I remember somebody in our neighborhood had the Dark Shadows board game, too. We played that a lot. Remember Dark Shadows?
I do not. I played Dungeons and Dragons, though.
Okay. All right.
But my point is, I don't know if there is a board game playing population out there anywhere. How are board games supposed to compete with a phone where they can get digital versions of all these games at any time for free? And there is no requirement to check it out, return it, anything like that. I have not seen a kid play a board game and I don't know when, with the exception of, I still see young people playing chess because a lot of times it's actually taught in schools. I actually taught chess for fifth graders many years ago in an after school program. But outside of that, I don't know if there's any real desire or hunger for kids to play board games. Now, Tawala Sharp, he may know better than me because he's closer to the schools these days. But the idea of sending kids and or parents to get board games, or books from a vending machine, I think you do better to just say, hey, we're going to extend the hours of the library so you can return your books. In fact, at the library I went to in Harbor City, they had a 24/7 drop slot. You can still drop it in there. You may not have been able to check out a book at any time, but that was half the battle. I mean, and if you see the picture of it, getting this from KTLA.com, it looks like a red box that they painted blue. That's the only way I can describe it. Am I wrong, Tawala? Am I wrong?
No, it is. My kids are of a higher caliber, though. They still like playing board games. They love challenging each other to a hate-filled game of Monopoly.
But I think that's generational. It seems like every generation, kids and adults play Monopoly. And also, to Monopoly's credit, or I would say, is that Parker Brothers? Who does Monopoly?
Yeah, Parker Brothers, yep.
Parker Brothers, yeah. To their credit, they've expanded the footprint of Monopoly where you have Monopoly for different cities. And so adults love playing Monopoly by and large. So that kind of transcends age. But games like Candyland, I'm never playing Candyland again in my life. I'm not playing Sorry again. I'm not playing Life. I'll play some Risk, but I'll play it digitally, because they have it available online to play. It's much easier. I mean, all these board games are available online, but the physical board games, I don't know if this is going to, encourage parents, because the parents are the ones going to have to make this happen. Kids are not going to see this press release. They're not going on a Facebook page of a city, a municipality, and then seek out the Monopoly game at the local library so they can actually play it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I damn sure doubt I am. And Stefan, let me ask you, what were the board games that you played growing up?
We definitely played Monopoly a lot, and Scrabble was one that.
Oh yeah, Scrabble.
Because for my mom, she wanted me to educational. And we did play. Do you remember Sorry?
Yes. Yeah, I played Sorry a lot.
We played that a lot. That was pretty much it that I can remember.
And 12, what board games outside of Monopoly were your kids playing? And I say work because I don't think they play them now.
No, they still do. They still will challenge you. Every once in a while, they'll be like, you know what? Let's play some Monopoly. And they have a lot of the updated versions. I have actually a unopened Batman City of Gotham Monopoly set that is phenomenal.
Whoa,
they got me one year for Christmas. It is one of the best looking Monopoly board game sets. But a nice game of Uno that usually starts a nice vicious fight, and Scrabble. Oh, Scrabble, the words they fight over. Scrabble.
Scrabble is a game that adults will still play. Uno is a game that adults will still play. But do kids play Uno or Scrabble on their own?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Right. Especially if they want to really mess with each other and challenge each other's intelligence. Oh, Scrabble is definitely a game that sets the weak apart from the brilliant.
Yeah, but when I played Scrabble, people were cheating too much, making up words, colloquialism, slang, and it got to be too much of a chore in that regard because people just cheat.
I like a game that has the potential to end with somebody tipping over the whole table. That's a fun game.
I was one of those. Yeah, that was me. I will tip over the whole board in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
I can see that too.
What are you trying to say?
Nothing.
You're not supposed to agree with me on everything like that.
That's boring. I agree. I should tell you, remember back in the old days, there was a board game for every single TV show that existed and some movies.
Yes.
I've been noticing the Alien movie board game goes for tons of money now, hundreds of dollars.
Never saw it. I did not know that.
It wouldn't seem intuitively like a perfect game for children if you ever saw the movie, but there was a board game for everything.
These board games that you're talking about, Mark, are probably not in the vending machine.
No. They'd get stolen right away. I have a small collection of old board games. I just got a board game based on the old Wild Wild West TV show from the 60s. You're not going to have stuff like that handed out for free at the library.
Well, here's the thing, and I know we got to go to break, but this is important. So either you have trash games that no one really wants or of minimal value, or you have really cool games that people obviously would steal, or they take some of the pieces, or they just destroy. I mean, it's a no-win proposition.
I wish there was a way to digitize an old school board game so that you could play it virtually, and it felt like you were kind of there. There's got to be a way to
They
do
have
that.
Monopoly.
No, you can.
Yeah.
They do with Monopoly.
Yeah.
And
Monopoly, and there's a couple other, the Game of Life.
Yes. Risk, I talked about.
Risk, yeah.
Yeah.
They have some
They're
really in-depth digital board games. Phenomenal.
Well, there
when
we
we
go.
come back, we're going to keep it on the school level. Remember how you needed a physical pass to walk through the halls, to go to the bathroom, or to go to your locker? You had a physical pass you would take with you. Well, technology has caught up with us, and now in Orange County, they're using QR codes to replace the conventional hall pass. We'll tell you about that next. KFI AM 640 live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
We all remember hall passes. No, I'm not talking about the one where you get to do whatever you want with over a weekend with your friends. No, not that hall pass. I'm talking about the real hall pass, which allowed you to go to the bathroom when you were in school, go to the nurse's office, go to the library, go to your car. If you had a car back then, I didn't. Maybe Twala did, but I didn't have a car back then. Well, y'all were richer than I was. Maybe not Mark.
Okay.
But I didn't get my first car until I was 22. It was a hand-me-down. So Mark Ron always likes to tease me like I'm rolling in the dough or something. That's never been true.
Whatever you
But
say,
anyhow.
whatever you say, from the comfort of your villa.
Ah. Yes, the villa that you haven't ever visited.
Oh, it'll happen. Trust me.
Okay.
It'll
So,
happen.
and you'll see like, oh, okay, this is not a big deal.
I'd like a room made up for myself and the finest wines available to humanity.
Twala, tell this man it's not like that. It is definitely not like that.
It is home sweet home, Mark.
Yes.
Sure, whatever you say.
He is not Shake Mo Kelly.
Right.
Shake Mo. I like the sound of that. I had a car when I turned 16, but it was a horrible beater. Nobody got a good car at that age.
Oh, so you got a car long before me.
It cost like $550.
It had 4 wheels and an engine. My first car was Dookie Brown, a 1976 Honda, which was handed down from my dad. Okay. It already had like 150,000 miles on it. I got it in 1991. It was a 1976 car.
What? So when you were already in your 30s? What, 91? No, everybody.
Oh.
We all got the worst possible beaters. This is the USS Ronner Prize I mentioned to you last week. It was a beat to hell old Gran Torino, like the kind they had in Starsky and Hutch, but an embarrassing, humiliating sky blue. It was just a beast. It was awful.
Okay. All right. So we're the same.
Close enough.
All right. Now at Edison High School in Huntington Beach, students for this hall pass must download an app and scan a QR code if they want to leave the classroom. And this goes back to our other discussions about kids, high schoolers, what have you, having a phone while on campus during school hours. And whereas some have argued that it's disruptive, and they are, some have argued that, they cause consistent problems in the classroom. They do. There's always the issue of whether they're available in an emergency. Are you collecting the phones at the beginning of the day and giving them out at the end? What if a parent needs to get in touch with a child? I know when I was growing up and Mark and Twala were growing up, you had to call the administration building or the principal's office, and that was the only way you could possibly get in touch with someone. But we live in a different world now, and kids are not going to give up their phones, and parents are not going to make their kids give up phones. But there are some good uses for them, and I think this is one of them. If you have students download the app and also scan that QR code, you can know where they are, for how long, and they can check in and check out. And it's something that I think could be more widely used on campus. You know how you come in and you have to, do they even do roll anymore? Do they take rolling? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think if you scanned in, because I know they do it on college campuses. Just go beep, kind of like the grocery store. Okay, so-and-so showed up for class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that. You could even do that at the beginning of the day too, to make sure that kids are showing that they're not being dropped off and going around the corner and ditching or thing. No, they have to. And then as a parent, if I could go on and see that my kid is scanned into school and that they are on campus all day based on a location, I don't know, subset of the QR code. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I mean, they basically low jack them in any other way. Don't you get a notification when they're not in class?
Absolutely.
Well, I would think it would be connected to that. You get to know when they're in class, what class they're in, and if they've missed any classes over the course of the day. They would just use the QR code and scan themselves in and scan themselves out. They're going to have the phones anyway. You might as well use them to the advantage of not only the school, but the parents. And I think this would be like, everyone would be happy. Now, going back to Edison, they're not using this as a hard and fast rule. They're still experimenting with it. But I see all the other potential applications of this, which will be really good. Now, it kind of ends senior ditch day. It ends the whole practice of ditching class, but that's too bad, so sad for them. I never ditched. I couldn't. No. I'm being serious. I couldn't, because one of my parents was always teaching at the school I went. And I didn't walk to school. I had to get a ride home to and from school. So what am I going to do? I'm going to ditch and not get caught? I'm like the only black kid at the school and my parent is teaching there. There's no way I'm going to just ditch and nobody notice and not get caught. That's what I mean. I wasn't saying like I was an angel. I'm just saying it was not possible for me to ditch class, because all they would do is walk down to the administration building, my teacher, and say, your son wasn't in class today. Do you know where he is? And then that would have been my ass.
I so feel for you. I really do. You missed so many good ditch parties.
The only ditching I did, and it was almost with the blessing of my mother, it was senior ditch day. And I just didn't go to school. It was like a sick day. And we didn't have like an organized senior ditch activity where everyone like showed up at the beach or something, if I remember correctly, or maybe I just wasn't invited. But it was nothing for me. I can't speak for Ronna or Stefan. Did y'all have a senior ditch day?
I think so. I was pretty meticulous about showing up every day, but I was late pretty often.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. I did manage to get an A in a class and a U in citizenship. Did you have citizenship grades?
I don't think so. What's a U? Unsatisfactory?
Unsatisfactory. We had excellent, satisfactory, and unsatisfactory. But I was an a-hole. I was, look, if there's any job which was meant for me, it was talk radio, because I was always mouthing off in class, and the teacher would get mad. And I remember I told my AP English teacher, well, I'm still getting an A, so it doesn't matter. So, it didn't go over well.
No, we're similar in that respect. I was an unrepentant smartass in school. And I think I mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago, I have actually sent a letter and received a response from an old teacher at the time who channeled me in the right direction. The rest of them just thought that I was a thug. And it's important to reach out and thank these people who made a difference in your life.
Well, the only teacher I think who is still living for me is my 6th grade homeroom teacher. I'm friends with her on Facebook. And I think every one of my teachers from elementary school, middle school, and high school have all passed on. I think every single one.
You had one with the best name I've ever heard, and I was trying to think of it the other day.
Which was it? Glenn Schwindeman?
No, that's a good one too, though.
Barbara Hawkins?
I think it was the one from the Arbor Day incident.
Oh, Cletus Nestle Road.
There we go. I'm stealing that name for a character in a screenplay now.
Yes, Cletus Nestle Road, and he has passed on as well. Rest in peace. Yeah, it's later with Mo Kelly. When we come back, we're going to tell you about the middle schoolers who fell ill after eating cannabis edibles. Here we go again. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And I usually have to review this for people because if you don't know me, you may not know this about me. I've never been for the recreational use of marijuana. I was for decriminalization, not recreational legalization. And part of it was I was forecasting down the road what it was going to lead to. And the availability of marijuana has always concerned me, where it would be not specifically available, but because of proximity and availability to adults, kids would be using it. They would be able to get to it far easier than in previous decades. So when I see a story like this one about the 5 middle school students who fell ill after ingesting cannabis-laced edibles, I said, this is what I'm talking about. No, you cannot nerf the world. You cannot protect kids from everything, but I think we live in a far too permissive society in many aspects. But if you don't know the story, 5 middle school students reportedly fell ill at a school campus in Northridge yesterday after they possibly ate cannabis-laced edibles. And 5 female students, they said they suddenly began to feel sick. With all 5 of the students, they were reported to be conscious and breathing upon firefighters' arrival. 3 of the girls were taken to a nearby hospital in fair condition. The other 2 were released to their parents or guardians after they were evaluated at the scene. This is a complex story for me, if only because it's something that we're talking about, hey, we're talking about the games and what we used to play when we were growing up and school age, the things that we had to worry about and didn't have to worry about. Yes, you could probably find some dude who was old enough or looked old enough to go in a liquor store, a convenience store, and buy you some alcohol. But alcohol, we kind of know the parameters on how it's going to impact someone and for how long. This is something which is having a different type of impact on young people. And this is always my concern. This has always been my concern. And I talk to Tuwala oftentimes about this. And he has, and I won't say it for him, but I know he has articulated concerns about his own son having to worry about getting candy from school and what it might be laced with or what it might also be passed around school. And, those are things that it's just such a different world. And I am concerned for my nephew. He's grown now, but when he was younger, I was very concerned about him and my blended sons. They had those similar concerns and issues they had to deal with. And one of the reasons why I was most against legalization of marijuana from a driving standpoint, although we can still cite someone for DUI, driving under the influence, there still isn't an actual test that can really quantify with great certainty how much THC is in someone's system. And what is the point of non-sobriety in the way that we know that 0.08 as far as alcohol, BAC, that's going to be the line. We don't have that same line for marijuana. And so, and maybe this is another one of my old man on the lawn, get off my lawn segments.
No,
but this is well, go ahead, Tuwala. No. I don't want to tell your story.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely not. And I think about this middle school, which was a hop, skip, and a jump from the middle school that my daughter was previously going to. And I think about how I used to show up to pick her up after school and think to myself, this campus is very open after school. There are kids hanging out all outside the gate, like on the street side, in the front lawn, hanging all outside at all times. What is to prevent someone from rolling up, giving a kid something, and then taking it back in after school? Because the after school program staff there, they're not really watching the kids. They're halfway watching the kids. They're more into their phones or yelling at kids. And so I look at something like this, even my daughter's current high school now, and I think about when I go and pick her up, and sometimes her and her friends may be able to go to the boba shop next door. Who knows who's at the boba shop? Fortunately, my child has her head on her shoulders, but these kids, from all reports, were unknowingly given this edible. So it's one of those, like, who knows what's happening when we're not there?
When we were in school, the idea of an edible did not exist. Yes, we knew the smell of marijuana, but the only way that people were going to ingest marijuana was by smoking. It wasn't going to sneak up on anybody. There was no way they were going to sneak it into your system or sneak it into your food. This is just a completely different animal. Now, in this particular instance, it's marijuana, THC. Could have been fentanyl. That's another concern. I know, different drug. I know it's highly regulated. It's illegal. All I'm saying is it's a different world in which we live. And kids today have more access to things than ever before, substances included. And I just remain of the opinion. I think we made a wrong step. I think we went in the wrong direction here in California when it comes to legalization of marijuana. And I've heard all of your rebuttal arguments about, well, it's not as addictive as alcohol, or you say it's not addictive or it's not as harmful. I get all that. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying that I don't think people really thought through the long-term implications of what legalization would look like here in California. And I will be that same guy until the day I die. Just that simple. Because I think about not only me, I think about we. KFI AM 640. We are live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
Full bandwidth stimulation.
KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere.